All right, it's December 3rd, 2024, 7:31 PM. I'm going to call the meeting of the Town of Willington Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Members present, myself, Bob Shavit, Andy Marco, Doug Roberts is remote, Becca Sinowski, Bill Bennell, and I'm going to see Michael Johansson for Joseph Hall tonight. All right, no applications for receipt tonight, no public hearings, brings us to item E, new business. One, review of codification comments from general code.
So the packet of stuff that is in front of you is a portion of the legal review, editorial and legal analysis that general code has provided. So we are in the middle of that project where they're reviewing all of our regulation, planning, zoning, subdivision, wetlands, aquifer, forestry, and then all of our ordinances, and basically trying to make sure that there's consistency, making sure that we're referencing things correctly. So this is basically the planning and zoning portion of it. And so I wanted to, number one, get them to you so you can see what the comments were, and I tried to filter out most of the stuff that has to deal with ordinances, et cetera. But some of this stuff is not really questions that I, necessarily will just tick off and answer directly on my own. So I wanted to go through it. We're obviously not going to get through them all tonight. But I just kind of wanted to go through, number one, to make sure you're understanding and see kind of the types of questions they're providing and what their expectations are of us. As you'll see, when we start to go through, we'll have options from saying, yes, revise as you've suggested. No, we don't want you to revise. Or if it's an issue like, if it was going to be something like home occupation, we could say, basically do not revise, or we'll defer a decision. We have to get them these answers in January. So we're not going to litigate some of these issues in the next month. So I just wanted to basically start going through them again, because I didn't want to necessarily answer on your behalf.
So some of this stuff's cleaning up language, things like that.
Right,
One here
yes.
uses the term mentally retarded adults.
Right.
Yeah, they don't use
Yes.
that anymore, so you want to put something that fits more with modern times. Like,
Right.
you got all some of these titles here, are they called that anymore? Are they like?
Right. Yeah, so the first page, like there was one here. I don't necessarily know the background, but it talks about the terms arterial and collector local street versus arterial and collector local road, and what that means. But I guess the first one that I need to do some research on is, I guess it's question 315-003. It talks about building line, and they're saying that in total, there are 8 references to an appendix A in the regulations, but there is no appendix A in the regulations. So the records of how far back things go are a little bit tricky for us, because we don't necessarily have everything in paper, not because we've thrown them out, but just having them. And there have been a couple of instances over the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years where there have been some issues with file corruption and other things in the town hall. So we don't necessarily have a complete digital backup.
The rules originally came out in 1970.
I think 72.
1970.
Maybe that's, you're probably right.
But then I have books going back as far as 2007. So isn't it a matter of just looking in the latest revision and seeing?
Yes. Well, so we gave them the latest revision, and what we have didn't have it. So it may just be that it got dropped off. But, or it could simply be that the reference or whatever, calling it appendix A, got changed. So it's all in there. It's just not being referred to as appendix A. But So that's something that we need to look at. But then, yeah, so if you look at the next one, 315-004, community residence for mentally ill adults. That is, hold on, I got myself mixed up here. So 001 was the arterial and collector roads. 002 is asking us to simply acknowledge that now that we're going through and updating everything, the references to what must have been a substantial revision in 1996 won't be carried in the footers of all the code because there'll be a new update. Then you'll see, so we talked about the appendix, and if we go to number 4, to your point, Walter, number 4 and number 5.
When was the last time, what's our latest rev on zoning regulations?
There have been several, but there hasn't been a consistent.
Going through everything,
Yeah, and putting in the footer of each line when that section was amended.
because we're probably going back 20 years when these terms like became unfavorable to use.
Yeah,
So it means nobody really looked at them.
yeah. Yeah, it's been quite some time. So for a lot of these, I think consistently, if there is a state definition or a term, my recommendation will be ultimately that we do what they're recommending, which is just to revise as suggested to align what we have with whatever the state's using. And I guess I should just note that we're gonna go through, we're gonna say revise or whatever, we're gonna give this feedback to them. They're gonna provide the updated document, if you will. And then we'll have to go through and do an actual sort of a widespread text amendment. And we'll actually go through the process of having a hearing and adopting the amendment. So by checking revise as suggested, we're not making the actual amendment, right? We'll still go through the process, but we need to give them this feedback so they can incorporate the correct language into the document. So I don't want anybody to think like when they look at the minutes or something that we just went through and, willy-nilly.
Who is this that reviewed all these?
General
party, is that?
General code, yeah, so
What
they
is that?
are.
Is that like a third party, like company you hire to do this?
They're an affiliate with ICC, which is the International Code Council. They're the ones that develop all the building codes and fire codes. So they're, a private organization. They have like professional attorneys and editors on staff. And if you go online and look at any town in Connecticut that has their code through like the e-code platform, which is like a digital code, they probably serve, I don't know, 80 towns in Connecticut, and they're nationwide. So they have about like roughly 2,000 clients nationwide. This is what they do. And so the first step in digitizing the code is looking at this sort of legal analysis.
Was this a mandate or something we required?
No, this was something that we put forward as a request for ARPA. So it's a $9,000 project where they're looking at all of our ordinances and codes,
Excellent.
doing this analysis and then providing the code doc online. They'll bind copies for us like the statutes are. And then when we do amendments, we'll provide them to them
Excellent.
and they'll incorporate it.
So it's done through ARPA, that's good.
Yeah.
We just go question one by one.
That's my thinking. Again, I don't think we're gonna get through all of them, but, for 4 and 5, I think it's pretty straightforward because,
What about all one?
well, we can go back to 1. Yeah.
I mean, really just saying we're using two different definitions within the same document. Right, is that what I'm reading?
315-001, they're saying it's inconsistent. In some places, we're
Right.
saying local
Straight,
road.
we say
Are they all the same thing?
Yeah, it's the same list, it's just different.
We use street one place, we use road the other, it should be.
No, I'm talking about number 1, your director of health officer, health
Oh,
official,
yeah.
sanitarian, are they all the same thing?
Yeah, so they're saying, so 162 is the adult oriented establishments ordinance. 310 is the subdivision regs, 304 is inland wetlands, and 310 is subdivision. Yeah, so it's referring to the same person, but using a different term each time.
What do we like best?
Right, so there's a little bit of nuance because, town sanitarian is like the actual person. That is the person that is gonna come from Eastern Highlands to your house to look at a septic repair that you might be going on. The director of health is Rob Miller. He is the director of Eastern Highlands. So he's like the actual director. So there's a difference there in those two terms because it's a different physical person. Health officer, health official, and sanitarian, I think are interchangeable. I don't know if when you guys wrote the adult-oriented establishments provision, if you actually meant the director of health,
We
not.
we didn't write it, it's been there for years.
I thought it was written,
I don't think
it's
so.
it's not fairly recent. I thought it was
Adult entertainment?
That's been
the
there a long
adult,
time.
yeah.
It's been 5, 6, 7 years, but.
It's been more than
That was
that.
there before that, that was there when I got on this board.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You were here when
That
I
was,
got on it.
yeah, but, France wrote most of that.
Was it intentional to do this?
that's what I don't have necessarily the background on, and I was gonna touch base with Eastern Highlands and see if they had a preference for the most inclusive term.
Health official seems to be the biggest blanket, right, or umbrella, if you want to call it.
They're all health officials.
Exactly, right, say health official, then it kind of covers,
Yeah,
because you don't know whose purview it might be for that particular moment in time.
right, and, yeah, there's no such thing as a health officer.
Yeah, right.
The health police don't come get
I like health.
So if you think health official is most inclusive, which I would probably agree, then we could use that.
Doesn't seem to be ambiguous, but it does kind of cover everybody from Eastern Island.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, I need to do a little bit of legwork and determine probably with Joe Dillon if the flood damage prevention reg is needed based upon the fact that that was adopted in 91 and then in 96 we adopted the flood regs. So that, there are model flood regulations that were adopted, which is, what ours are based off of, like in every community. So, it may not be necessary. We would not repeal zoning regulations. It would be an ordinance thing. So this is something that I would have to put over to the town clerk, because it would be the ordinance that would have to be repealed. I'm just not sure yet. That one is a town clerk for selectmen discussion. So you'll see here, I guess I didn't mention this and probably should have. 315 is what the section of the regs will become for zoning. So with the organizational analysis that they've provided, all the ordinances everything will have a chapter number. So 315 will be the zoning regs, 310 will be the subdivision regs, 304 will be inland wetlands. So everything will have a different chapter in the same body of code. So when you're going through these questions, the ones that start with 315 are the ones that pertain to the commission.
Got it.
So 315.1 is the arterial versus collector, where we use local street and local road. Again, what I wasn't sure on is when you look at the DOT functional classification map, they have arterial, they have collector, and they have local. And there's different classifications. Arterial, collector, and local are not one classification. So my sort of question here is this a punctuation issue? Should there be commas? Because, the issue we're running into in South Willington is that we classify that as a different type of road than what the DOT is classifying it as. They feel that it's a higher level roadway, which is why they want the lanes to be so wide.
32.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a state road, right?
It's a state road, but
Major state road.
they classify it as an urban collector, I think. And so because they call it an urban collector, they want at least 12-foot wide lanes, for example. They don't, so local road is a specific term reference there, and I wanna look into that a little bit more.
Well, isn't that the problem that they were having, trying to get funding for the, road work?
Yeah.
On the other end side of the highway? They were,
Water school.
on,
The truck stop?
no,
Drainage?
no, well, drainage, the drainage thing that they wanna do.
Yeah, the village and Schofield drainage stuff.
Yeah. And that, wasn't that the stumbling point there? Because the town was saying one thing and the state saying, well, it has to be a certain volume before it can reach the classification that they,
That I think is for design, so they want it to be able to withstand probably 100-year storm, or they won't accept it, which is, I think, what pumped all of the costs up. Oh, that's
I thought the only real arterial road was Turnpike. Cause most of the other ones they don't really. I mean, people could take Village Hill to get to Stafford, but it's most, most roads are, they service the people on that road, and people might drive through town, but Turnpike was a real arterial road, because everybody uses it to get to the highway. And the rest of them are state roads.
So the argument here, like in the purpose of this 315, or at least this, they want to know whether they call it a road or a street. Kind of
Right.
sounds street.
Because we have the same list here.
Well, we're kind of a rural community more so than a city. Street is kind of an urban term, How many times you hear street in Willington?
That whole list is not one street.
That's
These
right.
are all roads.
And
Clearly road.
City, and 60% of things are street or avenue or something.
Right. There's not one street on the entire list.
So, I don't know, road just seems to fit better.
And I agree.
Where we're at.
well, if they ever came and looked around the town, well, where's such and such a street? Well, that doesn't exist. It's this road.
Street always brings me to like
Yeah, it's more urban.
Yeah, so this is, did it keep us in the same place, or did it bring me back to?
So they're trying to use that as opposed to what the location of that road is. And
I get what a collector is, you have other roads like,
Right,
it's kind of a through road that you got a lot of.
Yeah.
right, yeah,
like a river.
Like Penny Hill or something, you
Right.
can
Well,
cut
it's
across
like-
to get over to 320.
Yeah.
32.
well, St. Moritz is the development, but everybody comes down.
Right,
The
yeah,
main
so like a
road,
collector.
yeah,
Well, this is not gonna work for me because it's not loading the street names, but yeah, so I mean, this is the functional classification map for DOT. So you have blue, green, yellow, and purple and red. So local road is whatever this color is. My eyes are
Okay.
black,
I
maybe.
can see it
A
too.
local can be a street or a road.
But see how,
Where you're at.
but see how they have arterial and collector are different?
yeah.
So we're just saying arterial, collector, local streets. We have three separate road classifications that we're all just lumping into one.
Is that a bad thing?
Well, it doesn't, it just, in my mind, doesn't make any sense, like we're saying that all of these are
Well, we just name all the roads in town
basically.
and say it's one of these definitions.
Right.
We're not lying, but it's not very helpful.
So the only thing that I don't wanna do is create confusion, because DOT is gonna say, well, this is our, again, and I don't know why it's not loading the street names. For some reason
It's not a layer.
no, it's just because this computer is so bad. 195 north.
Oh, for Talent and Ashford, you should be in between the two, should be.
I know, and, so yeah, here's one.
So what do they want us to do? Decide if it's an arterial or a collector?
No, they wanna know if it's arterial collector local street and change it to arterial collector local road. Or change arterial collector local road, because we reference both in our reg.
Well, most everything, I would make it a road. It seems,
I would too, but that's just me.
seems, logical. I mean, just look at the list.
Alright, so we wanna
When you
revise.
Google it, what's the difference between a road and a street? What's it say? Is there?
Yeah, I don't think there's any difference. I was just worried about calling it a local road,
Even turnpike,
Yeah,
since this isn't gonna work, I'm not gonna screw around with it.
Yeah.
and that's access between towns.
Alright, so we wanna, at least for now, tag it as local road,
Yes.
okay.
There's quite a few roads missing on the list, so I don't know what that's all about.
That's just, there's a section in the regs that basically said, that talk for citing and uses the
There
categorizing
you
of
go.
the streets.
Street, a paved public road that only appears in a city or town, not in rural areas. Usually there are shops, stores, or houses along both sides of the street, which facilitate public interaction.
So our one option is the one, change street to road.
Okay. Next one that we already talked about is just an acknowledgement of removing those updated brackets. And then number 3, I referenced the, needing to find the appendix. The next, number 4 and number 5, we touched on are just updating terms. So those, I believe, should sort of both be revising, to use the correct terminology. I think daycare center is also the same, 19A77 of the statute, so that would be, again, revised as suggested. The number 7, a single detached dwelling on one lot used for residential purposes, designed and or used for occupancy by 3 or more families living independently of each other, having separate or joint entrances, services, or facilities. They say the definition dwelling multiple family should be changed to dwelling multifamily for consistency with the rest of the zoning regulations. The term multiple family is not used anywhere else. So we have one place where we reference a term that's not used anywhere else. So they're saying change dwelling multiple family to dwelling multifamily. That's pretty straightforward. Number 8 is similar, related to dwelling one family. They're saying the term dwelling one family is defined in 315-301, but the term used in the rest of the zoning regulations is single family dwelling.
So it should be just for this.
Right, yep, so again, change as suggested. Number 9, entertainment indoor. In the definition of entertainment indoor, in blah, 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 is the wording outdoor entertainment. In the last sentence, in the last sentence. Sorry, I think there's a typo there. Is the wording outdoor entertainment in the last sentence supposed to be indoor entertainment? Indoor entertainment shall, and then they give you an example of kind of what it would read as suggested.
Oh, right, because we're talking about indoor entertainment, the last sentence says, shall also exclude outdoor, was that our intent? I wonder if that was our intent.
So the italics is what we have now. Then their comment, and then their sort of suggested edit with the bold. So the last sentence,
It's only 2017.
and it says, and shall also exclude outdoor entertainment accessory to a single family dwelling, which shall be a permitted use.
It basically says the same thing, just they reworded it.
Indoor entertainment shall exclude adult entertainment, because that's a separate ordinance. And shall also, are we trying to say we want to exclude outdoor entertainment from the indoor entertainment wording? Are we trying to separate it?
I think it's correct as written. They're trying to say adult entertainment isn't covered under this, and outdoor entertainment accessory to a single family home is also not covered under
Yeah, I think
this.
that is what we're trying to say.
So I think it's correct as written.
In other words, don't have a noisy band or something like.
Well, they're trying to say if you have outdoor entertainment at your house, you don't fall under being regulated by this ordinance.
Right, exactly.
Which to me makes sense.
That's right.
You're not trying to regulate stuff happening at people's houses.
Right.
Right.
And so if we were to revise that, I think it needs to stay as intended. Cause your intent in adopting this entertainment ordinance was not to regulate what things are doing, what people are doing at their house. It was to regulate these commercial uses.
Right, so we used to exclude all entertainment.
And then you
We
created an
did that
ordinance.
in order to keep the strip clubs out of town. That went on, and then we started to have entertainment, and it was nice, people liked it, so we put the adult entertainment under an ordinance, not in the zoning regs, adult entertainment. So that's it, so we're not trying to, this is indoor entertainment at a business, which is fine, if you're entertaining inside your house, no one's gonna know, and so we want to exclude outdoor entertainment from the reg. So you can have a party outside and not be in violation of zoning regulations, so yes,
I
we
think,
don't wanna change.
right. That's my thought, but
I was just saying that to make sure I understood it. And saying it out loud also.
anybody else have thoughts? We could also defer and not do anything with it, but I think it should stay as it is.
I do too.
Yep, to not revise, that would be my.
Okay. The next one is a little bit trickier.
It is tricky.
The definition of family.
Okay, they'll let the lawyer answer it.
We currently have a group of not more than 3 persons, not so related by blood, marriage, or adoption, living together as a single housekeeping unit. So this is tricky because the definition of family affects like rentals and obviously with UConn and other things, how many people that are, unrelated, living in a single housekeeping unit. If that were to be adjusted, you could have 4, you could have 5, or you could just say any number of people. That would mean that 5 people all living together, even if they were not related at all, if they're sharing a single home, they would qualify as a family. Under our regulation, it wouldn't. And I can tell you that in the time that I've been here, people have reached out and said, I want to buy this house and want to rent it to college kids. It's a 4-bedroom or something. And we've told them, our regulations limit you to 3 persons. So the flip side to that coin is there's very clear case law that if people are living together, sharing a single kitchen, they're a family. And towns that have tried to limit that, if you go to the mat, on it and, we were to take them to court, we probably wouldn't win. But
I'd like to see the attorney's opinion on which of these is best, because you don't want anything to go either.
right,
And as somebody who lived next to something where anything
Right.
went, with a drug overdose in there and a disaster and multiple calls to the police, I feel a little strongly about like to say, oh,
Right.
anybody can go, and we shouldn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Buy a single family home and stuff it full of people and, that's a family. I don't agree.
I think this is almost like, protecting the neighborhood by, when we're talking about, home business. I don't think there's not much difference. I mean, we're looking.
You're right, Bob.
To not create a disruption in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and you don't wanna be so overly restricted, though, people don't have some options.
Oh,
on what to
right.
do, but you don't wanna take a single family house and cram it full of people and, you can't say anything, cause that's a family.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah. No, I think we have to be careful here. We've limited it for a reason.
Well, this
Well,
means,
it's for that very reason, because we border.
So theirs is different, because they have a
when
rental
wrote the
registration
regulation, what would
ordinance.
happen?
okay,
so
That's what
they
happens in-
not get around it, but they have an additional layer, because if you rent their house by ordinance, you have to go through the approval process, and they have a housing code. So they limit the occupancy based upon bedrooms through ordinance.
Spaces, bedrooms, this,
Right, they
that.
go through the whole 9 yards. And they have more access to utilities in Mansfield, so they're not worried about septic, well, in every case. So we don't have that ordinance level that we can kind of fall back on.
what about Holland? I'm just curious, ones around us that are a little bit bigger than us because they have some of these
Yeah, I don't,
homes that
I can't remember.
potentially could be
Sure.
rented out like that.
I mean, the other option is to defer, meaning we're not, obviously, we can make regulation changes all the time. We're just saying we're not gonna take this up, you know, while we're dealing with this issue. Family. The Tolland is one or more persons occupying a single housekeeping unit and using common cooking facilities, provided that unless all members are related by blood, marriage, legal adoption, or legal guardianship, no such family shall contain more than 6 persons.
So they say 6, they put a number on.
We should leave.
Trying to remember now.
Yeah, and I can say honestly, in the 4 years that I've been working in Tolland, I have had not one, heard not even a conversation about rentals and issues with that. I think that they're a little bit further removed and their housing stock tends to be a little bit newer and a little bit larger, and with taxes and a lot of other things, I just think the market is different there. That may be part of it. So yeah, I mean, I agree that it's an issue that we maybe should consider, but probably not in the time frame for codification.
You're sanding.
Huh? Oh, like something's coming off the wall. So maybe we just do not, we defer. Something, yeah, put a little more time into. This is number 9. 11 is the same, it's making updates to the statutory language.
Wow.
Yeah, but it sounds like a plow.
But the state,
truck.
He's plowing.
yeah, the state's out plowing.
Yeah, the town.
Blades down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard it
The town
crash in
volunteers
front of
park.
Gotta start grinding the edges.
Good way to test the equipment, make sure.
It's true. So this one, says the definition of family daycare home ends with a reference to see the definitions of home occupation. However, the definition of home occupation refers to group daycare homes. So I think that this is adjusted now that we have updated the home occupation and group daycare homes regs based on the state statutes, which we've done over the last chunk of months.
Yeah.
So I think that this one, my suggestion would be we just tick off revise as follows, and then I'll send them the updated regs.
Right.
I think that one solves itself. Group daycare home, which is 13, is again,
did we skip 12? You went 11 and then you found 13 and I see 12 at the bottom.
I went 11, family daycare home, 12 is,
Another family daycare home.
yeah, that's the same one. No, that's the one I was reading, sorry. So 11 is update as suggested using the state's definitions. 12 is the one that we would update with our new amended reg.
Okay.
Because we adjusted group daycare homes before the home occupations to make them as of right,
Right,
based on the state act.
yep.
So I think that both of those are adjusted because we included the group daycare homes as a permitted use by right if they meet the state standard. So I think that both of those come out of the same section and I think solve that. And then it goes to 13, which is again, a statutory change, which I think is also revised as suggested. 11, 12, 13. 14 is a reference. They're saying they're changing a term based upon the
Can I
Connecticut
use
General Statute.
rest home anymore? That's an old term.
Yeah,
I knew it, rest home.
3:15:15 is as far as I got when I was looking at it, so, it's basically picking up on a discrepancy for multiple frontages. It's saying in the section, multiple frontage appears to relate to corner lots. Should the wording each lot at the beginning of this section read each corner lot?
Yeah, because we say each lot shall meet the minimum lot frontage on at least one street. If it's not a corner lot, it would only ever be on one street. Right?
Gotcha. Um,
Because the only ones that are on two streets are corner.
so I think that, I again think that this is a do not revise.
Really?
Because I think what they're saying, what the reg is getting at is, you can't create a lot that has a little bit of frontage on one street and a little bit of frontage on another street and cobble it together. We want you to demonstrate that you have the required minimum frontage on at least one street. So if you have like a little skinny lot that maybe has frontage on, you know, front and back or something.
That's a good point.
I think what they're intending, the reg is intending to say is, you need to be able to provide the 200 feet of road frontage on one complete road.
Mhm.
So if you have multiple frontages, you can't cobble it together and say, oh, I've got a little bit here and I've got a little bit over here and I'm good, now it's a building lot. You need to have 200 on one of those streets.
Yeah, that's actually my lot. I got 20 on Old South Willington, and then my majority is on, 320.
Yeah,
But my access is from Old South Willington, and I'm registered on Old South.
yeah, so I think what this should stay, even, yeah. I think that it should stay as
Mine
it
too, I got frontage on, most of it's on Timber Lane, the other piece of it's on Burt Latham, it's on the corner. It's much more on Timber Lane.
Yeah, and we're not saying, I'm not saying whether I think it's necessary, but the way that the reg is written, it's preventing people from using lots that have multiple frontages as a way to cobble together
Mhm.
another building.
Yeah, okay.
So I think this is a do not revise.
I like it.
Um. 16. It says, in the case of a lot underlying in more than one zone, the provisions of the most restrictive zone shall be applied to the entire lot, which is pretty standard. Zones shall be deemed to range from most restricted to least restrictive in the following sequence. And then it lists those zones. And it's saying, does the design elderly residential zone need to be added to the list? So basically what they're picking up on is the design elderly residential zone is listed, but it's not, in here as a, you know, where, they're asking us where it falls. I believe that similar to designed recreation,
What is designed community residential?
that is like, I think it's like a higher density for like,
What town is that?
that's ours. Oh, what, in town you mean?
Yeah, the design community residential.
Yeah,
What's an example?
I think it might be,
The senior center, isn't it?
yeah.
Okay, if that's the case, then why do you have designed elderly residential?
Oh, yeah, that one would be there.
So what? I'm confused a little bit.
Would that be a place that doesn't have as much parking?
Design
that
community,
cottage home
design neighborhood,
that you-
designed elder.
Like that one time?
You're not the only one.
The logo is kind of baffling.
Which one you were asking about
I was
design?
asking you what design community residential is, where is it in town?
So. I believe, so this is the Oaks on Baxter,
Okay,
does that make sense? This is, the condos off of Depot,
okay.
so it's your higher density
Okay.
type.
Like a condo.
Yeah.
Alright, so condo units, townhouses.
It doesn't, the reason why it's a little bit weird is because even though these are zoned this way, you could never build those under the zone. All of the higher density stuff, all the apartments, they're all non-conforming. You can't get the developments that are here based upon that. But I think it was an intent to try and address some of that. So to their question, they're asking where to add designed elderly.
Do you want it more restrictive or less restrictive than R80? Is that what they're trying to? Because they're in order, right?
Yeah.
Most restrictive to least restrictive. So I think it should be after R80. Because R80 is sort of the baseline residential. Because the rest then are then designed recreation. Designed community, so I think it should be after.
After R80?
Right. It'll go from R80 into the design zone.
Okay.
All right, and then want to do one more? How many more do you want to do?
About two.
Two more. Okay. The next one, talking about corner visibility, they're saying the vision triangle prescribed in 315-4.08 for fences, walls, hedges, and structures is different from the triangle prescribed in section 9.06 for signs, and they're asking if this is correct. So they're listing the two sections there and saying, essentially asking us if we want to choose one.
I don't think they're different.
One we say 50 feet, one we say 25.
What's more restrictive, the signs?
No, the other one, yeah,
Okay, that's 50, so 50 feet of a triangle on a corner lot, you can't put anything that impedes the vision, basically.
I would think like a tall hedge would probably be more vision impeding than a sign.
I think that might be wise, that a sign is just a singular object, whereas a
Right,
fence
right.
could run.
I think you wanna leave it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, cool. Okay, code content. So they're talking about how we assign street numbers. We're referencing a statute that was repealed in 1982.
Okay, let's get rid of it.
Delete the wording in accordance with in the beginning of. So then it would just basically say assignment, street numbers shall be assigned in accordance with.
Oh, one.
That makes sense. Okay. That was it. Got our two. Okay. Cool.
How are you gonna go about tackling the rest of them?
I think that now that I haven't have gone through it, I can go through the rest and.
Why don't we save up ones that you think the commission should weigh in on for the next meeting or two?
Yeah,
Some of these are like no brainers.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I can do is I'll pull out the more pressing, ones that I think need more of a discussion like family or whatever.
But you can see just because they flagged something doesn't mean they figured it out.
Right.
Some of these, there's intent behind what was.
Right, and so they're just noting an inconsistency, and that may be correct, it may not.
Right.
They're not, they are not. Obviously, zoning, people, so they don't know the intent.
That's a good exercise.
It is a great, yeah.
Sometimes it do need to be fixed.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so I'll pull that together, and I guess just as a reminder, we discussed previously canceling the 17th meeting, so it'll be for the January. I'll pull those.
Everybody would really want to be here.
I'm good.
Brings us, no unfinished business tonight, brings us item G, approval of minutes from November 19th, 2024. The actors pay company. So you want to make a motion?
I move to accept the November 19th, 2024 minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Wasn't there.
Minutes are approved. No correspondence tonight. Item I, public participation. See anyone?
I'd like to say something quickly. Bob and I attended the FOIA meeting at the library. And the presenter said that we have to put the reason we're going into executive session on the agenda, and we have never done that. It can be fairly broad. He said you can't just say personnel. But I take issue with that, because I think if you said personnel, talk about Amy Marco or something, especially if it was something fairly early in the discussion, I think that would be wrong. If you don't even know where you're going with something, but you want to convene as a group and talk about something, I think that to give out too much is also misinformation, because you might say, no, everything's fine. We're not gonna make any changes. Okay, great, good to know, but you still have to talk about it, and you still don't want to do it in the public forum.
There's a reason to have executive session.
Exactly.
obviously.
But they said we're supposed to be, in the interest of the public good, we're supposed to be more specific, so.
Yeah, so it was different last time because we added it as an agenda item, but we discussed that it was pertaining to the litigation that is pending for love.
Yeah,
So, you know, it was clear that that's what we were doing.
right.
I think that since I've been here, we've only done it one other time, and you did reference the section. There's only 3 or 4 reasons you can do it under personnel, you can do it for litigation, you can do it for like collective bargaining and
Yeah,
union stuff.
there was some,
And if you're doing anything related to contracts or anything that may have a substantial effect on the, on a piece of property's value or a contract related to
Right,
purchase or whatever else. And so when we had a discussion about something the last time, we did reference the correct section.
okay. I guess it's supposed to be on the printed agenda as well, and then we were supposed to say who was coming that wasn't.
Yes,
So we should have said, and Mike Bottle will be joining us, or
Yeah.
something like that, out in the open, so.
yeah, you're supposed to include specifically who will be going in if there's anyone outside of the commission.
Correct, right, right.
It
I
was-
did,
It wasn't on it last.
no, but I did make sure with Ken that it was okay that we add it, and because it was a regular meeting, you can add it as an.
Yeah, right, because it was a regular
And
meeting.
you put his 3 Polster Road loves.
Yeah, yeah, so we did it as,
I'm not worried about this, but something that was
Yeah.
interesting that I hadn't heard before.
executive session, 3 Polster
Yeah,
Road.
that's it.
All right,
Right, cool. So that's good.
that's good.
It was a pretty good session. I thought the guy was,
Yeah, it was. I think it opened the eyes for people that are doing, online, meetings, that your meeting
right.
has to be posted 24 hours, but the place and type of Zoom meeting you're having, 48 hours. So
Right.
what the suggestion was, if you're having meetings in regular intervals, post them a couple weeks, couple meetings at a time, so that there's no,
Yeah.
Or if
through
the
the
address
cracks.
doesn't change,
Right,
that
right.
can be posted in the beginning, and
Right.
not have to be posted again.
Well,
Right,
the Zoom link, that's what we're saying, the Zoom link can go out, because that's not gonna change regardless of the location.
Yeah.
And that's what had to be out, so you don't even have the agenda, you can do the agenda the day before, but the Zoom link has to be out at least 2 days.
2 days.
So they said, do it 6 months out. You know, we could have Zoom links out until June for our meetings, and then if we cancel the meeting, we just cancel the link. There's no,
yeah,
so it was sort of just one of those, to me, I get it,
one of those dot the
just
I and cross the T.
kind of, it was just one of those things, so. But it was a good meeting, I'm kind of glad, I'm glad I went to it. It was,
All right, so brings us to item J, staff report discussion. One review of suggested zoning regulation amendments memo.
So this is towards the, it should be right after the minutes. You've seen this before. I'm sort of updating it as we've been going. We did accessory dwelling units, we did home occupations, we did outdoor dining. We did the family daycare stuff, that's not on here because it was a new statute that was passed, which we adjusted. So these are, some of the other ones. So notwithstanding the amendments that we're gonna have to deal with through this codification, these are the other ones that we've established. We've kind of started to talk about signs, but that's a complicated one. The SDZ is something that I think you're probably gonna end up hearing more from the EDC on once the strategic plan is done, because, they don't wanna, and I would imagine nobody wants to just leave the title, right? We have a heading in the regs, we've dismantled the rest of it. So I didn't know if any of these jumped out at you as stuff that we should tackle sort of in a different order. The commercial lighting, is one that has always been discussed, but not necessarily under a substantial amount of pressure because we don't have a lot of commercial development. And minimum floor area for housing, right now, that's one that we just basically ignore because it says that we can't. So that's really just deleting, telling people how big their house has to
Used to
be.
be 1,000 square feet, right?
Ground floor or whatever is in that table.
Right.
So I don't know if there's any of these that jump out at you want to tackle next. Any of them will work, but I just thought it would be good to kind of pick.
I think we should do signage.
Okay.
What do you guys think? It's been a thorn for years.
Wouldn't you wanna do that
Chew
with
on that
lighting?
for a while.
Signage and lighting kind of, to me, go together.
I kind of thought we were already there.
Tackle both of those at the same time.
Yeah, I thought all our commercial lighting, we were asking for dark
We always-
skies.
You asked, but the regs
Yes.
don't
The
require.
regs don't require, and the same way with driveways, haven't we been doing that for a long time, to have the turnouts and with our
We've been
driveways?
talking about that the entire time.
Yeah, but I guess it wasn't in the regs, we just always made it a condition.
And there may be some language I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Stuff that-
It's just, I know, but we talked
I think
about
it was
that.
more of a condition.
I think it was a condition of approval, but maybe it wasn't actually in the
Well,
regulation.
one thing with commercial lighting, though, you gotta make sure if somebody's putting in a development, like a distribution center or something like that, that the lighting is good enough for safety purposes and everything, not simply that it's dark skies compliant,
Yeah,
you gotta have a pretty lit lot, you're running trucks through it and everything, and
Yeah, people running around too.
yeah, we've run into that in other places. The facilities insurance companies require them to provide a certain level of lighting.
that's right.
And if they don't provide it, they don't have coverage, even inside the building. If someone breaks into the building and then hurts themselves, we're liable, even if they've broken in. Dollar General had that. They need to provide a minimum lighting in the building at all times, even if someone's trespassing. And so for the IDSA standard, what a lot of people are doing is moving to requiring that they meet the criteria that's equivalent to that, but not that they're international dark sky compliant, because that's really just a seal. You just pay the association and they say, yeah, your standards are good, and that's just a cost.
Right.
You just want it designed to the standards of no trespass, directional.
Like that word, like directional.
But I think signage is, I certainly get a lot of people that say, that sign on Dunkin' Donuts is comical.
It is comic.
Because it's, so I think we can start there.
Signage. Big one.
And then the only other thing that I had was just the commissioner training requirement. It's
Oh, yeah.
here, it exists. There's some,
When do we have to do something else?
it's now it's based on term. So once you get into the cycle, it's based upon your term. It's no longer an annual or biannual thing. So,
But they changed it, wasn't it originally gonna be more frequently?
yeah, yep. It was gonna be basically 4 hours every year, every other year. Now it's, you get your first training on your belt and then you have it for your term. So we have longer terms here, so you are in pretty
Sure.
yeah, some places it's much shorter. So if you haven't done it, I can send you some links. There's some stuff you can go on. Basically, YouTube can move it to like 2.5x and watch it in 3/4 of the time.
That was a long day.
Yeah, and so, yeah, and that was the other thing is,
Oh, it is.
the every other year Connecticut bar training is coming up this March. So that's the all-day Saturday. It's via Zoom. So if any of you are interested, it's the soup to nuts, kind of everything land use. It does qualify as a training, but if any of you are interested in going, we have
How
a
often
training.
is that required?
it's not required. It qualifies as training if you go, but you're not required to go to that one. Some people go and do more of the self-guided stuff, an hour here, an hour there. Other people like just going to one training, it covers everything, it's good for, you know. So if anyone's interested, we have the training budget, we'll get you registered.
How long was the training we did online last year? It was like just a morning, right?
Like 5 hours,
5 hours.
yeah.
Yeah, it starts in the morning and goes, you know, early afternoon.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday. There's like 600 people that do it. So it's just, that's the same one. They would have offered it 2 winters ago.
And that qualifies, we don't.
That qualifies, yes.
It's good for your term though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if your term is reappointed or you didn't go last year and you wanna, if you're interested in going, you can go and it covers you moving forward. I mean, it's a really good training. I mean, it's put on by,
Valuable training,
if you're going to do a training, that's one that is highly recommended. There are others that Clear has where you can go online and it's, you literally just watch the recording and they have a couple that qualifies. The Saturday training is more hours than you need, 6 hours or 7 hours, and you only need 4. But we have the budget to be able to send anyone that's interested in going, so. Got some time to decide, it's not till March. I just wanted to mention it. And I think that's all I got.
It's 28 PM, meeting adjourned.